So the number one spot is framed in my family. I grew up in a small village in County Limerick in Ireland, and I've had the good fortune to have had a great grounding through my family, through my parents, my siblings, and my grandparents. So my grandparents lived with us, and so I have two brothers and a sister. My parents, and my grandparents, we all lived in the same house. My granddad died in 1974, so when I was around 6 or 7. But I still have vivid memories of him. He was just the most wonderful man. And my grandmother lived to till 1996, so she was 95, I think, when she passed away. And so the reason I say this is these were important people in my life. And even though I was quite young when my granddad died, he's been an important and still is an important figure in my life. Um, and that love that I have for my family still endures, and we're still really close. But if I was to pick one person in my family, and I am a daddy's girl, Julia, and I know that. But as I look back and reflect on my life, it would be my mother.
Okay.
And my appreciation from my mum has only grown as I've gotten older. Um, because I think I look back now and I can see how much of my drive, my curiosity, and my desire for education and to travel, she helped me with that, and she just supported me. Education was always hugely important for my mother. She was determined, that my sister and I would have a good and my brothers clearly as well. But as girls growing up in the 70s, she was really clear. She wanted us to have a great education. She wanted us to have the opportunity to go to university. She did everything she could, to support all of us, to enable us to do that. And she just had this unconditional love for us and belief in us. So it never ever crossed my mind that I would do anything other than go to university, even though very few of my relatives had gone to university, or done anything like that. Both my parents are, they didn't unfortunately have the opportunities to stay on in school and to have further education, but they're hugely intelligent, really well read. And so we always discuss current affairs, politics, and I'm a politics junkie and a current affairs junkie still. We had the best conversations at home with my siblings as well. But if I look back, and I can just see just how much of a supporter my mother was for me growing up. And she is just such a great source of common sense and support, and she's got some brilliant insights in life. One of her sayings that I really like is, "Shroud has no pockets." She's not a materialistic person at all, and a few months ago we were chatting, and she'd had a little bit of a health scare, and thankfully she's doing really well now. And we just chatted about life and about death, and she said, "Helen, we're born, we come into this earth with nothing, and we die, we leave this earth with nothing. And what really matters is what happens in between and with people and the people in our lives. And that's really what matters most." And she's a kind, loving person. And everyone who's met my mother, I think, would say that about her. She's just so thoughtful and considerate, and she just puts other people first all the time, and so we all, we work to make sure she puts herself first as well. But as I say, sometimes, Julie, when you're growing up, you see this and you don't appreciate it because you take it for granted. And I wish I'd been a nicer teenager now, but I can't change the past, but I can be the best daughter I can be now, to her and my father as well, who's wonderful. But as I say, and I love them both dearly, and I am a daddy's girl, but my mom is really, she's just one of these amazingly lovely people.
Number one is Mummy O. So my mum.
Mummy O.
I don't know why I call her that.
Has that been for always?
Just Mama. She's
Mama.
She's a bit of a legend. So yeah, it was very hard not to make her the first.
Okay, let's hear all about her.
So I would say that my parents got divorced when I was 8. And my mum moved down with us to live with her parents actually in Hertfordshire. They subsequently got remarried 4 years later, by the way. So they're like one of those weird, to each other. So that was kind of, part of the journey. But from when we were really little, we were growing up in Scotland. My parents are both from London, so that wasn't where they were from. My mum has this amazing sense of, you only get out of something what you put into it. She always wanted to ride horses and had a stable next to hers when she was growing up, but they couldn't, obviously horses are very expensive, but when you live in Scotland, you've got a paddock. They say to you, you get a wee pony. So that's what, my mum did, but she didn't just do it. She was like, we had the ponies, we got up super early. We were, it was all about you only get out of things what you put into it. She encouraged us to be in the pony club, which of course, we did. She was then secretary of the pony club. She'd been a PA not in her earlier life, I guess. And she ultimately just was completely vested in us being the best we could be. I always have this memory of my mum when we were doing our exams and my sister was doing her A-levels when I was doing my GCSEs, and we'd come downstairs and she'd just say to us, have you done enough? And she had this great, it's such a statement. If anyone, I don't have children, but if anyone does, I think that's kind of, particularly for girls who are like, all we want to do is do you proud. All we want to do is be as successful as we can. My mum had come from a Cockney family. Her mum was one of 10 girls who grew up, in a, very small house. And her father had all number of jobs until he was, 14. They were very hustly, I would say. My granddad went to school with the Crays, so that kind of says it all. But my mum had been sharp, quick-witted, smart, not necessarily gone down the academic education route, but she'd been such an empath. I think my mum always sees things from other people's point of view, which when you're growing up is extremely infuriating, especially when you were my character who's like, I don't care what other people think. My mum would be like, well, you should.
Yeah.
You've got to put yourself in their shoes. You've got to put on their glasses. And I think that a lot of the way that I now operate, without really realizing, comes through my mum's warmth, her care, her ability to combine standards and high standards and the kind of feeling of like, have you done enough, with great support. It's very, for me growing up, I remember my mum saying to me that you'll be fine. If you don't get into university, or if you do everything you can for your A-levels and you don't manage to go to university, you'll be fine because you're just one of those people and you'll work really hard and you'll be extremely successful. And she just kept giving me that combination of kind of stretch, but with, of course, the great support that comes with it. So that's definitely where I have to start.
Oh gosh, well, what a start. Okay, let's not skim over this first bit. So they got divorced at 8 years and then remarried 4 years later. So I'm sure everybody listening wants to know more about that. We will come on to other things. But just talk us through that, because that sounds extraordinary. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, obviously for them, I don't really, you don't necessarily go super deep, but I think they were obviously at a point where, being together wasn't serving either of them well. I think it was difficult for my sister and I because of obviously, I was 8, my sister was about 10, 11. And so we moved from Scotland. We lived in St Andrews at the time, and that was life, as I said, ponies in the field and pony club, and that was just everything. We moved down to Hertfordshire where my mum's parents lived, obviously away from my dad. It was, it was a tough time. I think the way that my parents handled it, there was never a moment where you didn't feel loved and supported. My grandparents were amazing during that time. My mum actually ended up disbanding my grandfather's company so that he kind of got some money from it and he was ready to kind of retire. And she got asked, it was a woodworking machinery company, and she got asked by the Italian woodworking machinery company to run the company in the UK for them. So she took on an MD job running this business in Daventry, actually. So, an hour and a half's drive. And she'd drop us at the stable super early. She'd go, she'd drive, she'd do that. She'd come back, she'd pick us up. And, to see someone do that, she'd always look amazing in her Max Mara. She'd have this Saab, this green Saab. I just remember, And I just thought, you know, if I just still think now, if my mum can do that
Yeah.
with an 8 and an 11-year-old, what am I moaning about?
Yeah.
It's quite an emotional.
Well, my number one probably won't be a surprise because I think there is a theme running, is my mother,
Okay.
Barbara Mary Foy. Mum was born and raised in Auckland, one of a big Catholic family. And she sort of has, obviously, we're influenced by our parents. But what I've taken from mum, she's no longer with us, but there were lots of things in her life that could have made her very bitter and resentful. She had a lot of very difficult things happen to her. She was taken out of school really young and she was really bright and hated it and cried and cried. And even her, beloved older brother stood up, she said I was taken out of school so my brothers could go to private schools. And that probably also informed why she was so adamant that all of her 5 daughters, and she had 5 daughters, would have, in their adolescence, would have a private school education. So she, and that was really hard for her. It stayed with her probably all her life. And she went, on and retrained as a counselor, etc. But that really did stick with her. And then her older brother, who did stand up to her father, didn't help, who she really adored, a real soulmate, again, was bookish. He was flying, as his brother was, with the RAF during the war, and on a sortie over Norway, and 3 weeks before the war ended, they came down. So, then she lost her beloved elder brother. She finally got to go to nurse. She went nursing and she got rheumatic fever. She had to pick it all out of nursing, so she had health issues for the rest of her life. She then got a job as an air hostess on Teal. Her father would not let her do that, was not appropriate for her to do. So she was always sort of resourceful. Lots of things happened. And then, my father died a couple of days before my 2nd birthday. So at 32, she was left with 3 little girls under 6, widowed with mortgages. And you never heard her do anything other than, well, how are we going to fix this? What are we going to do? So I think that she was somebody who I've learned resourcefulness, resilience, optimism, definitely a glass half full person, and joy. Something about, even I remember cousins and friends go, oh, Auntie Barbara, she was the one you'd go to when you needed to just have a non-judging conversation, very open and curious about the world, very generous of spirit. So yes, she has has shaped a huge amount for me. And she tolerated my bolshiness and my, uh, wanting to not have a conventional life, and letting me fly. I never got any of the, my other friends who had lived, my other expat friends, colleagues would often have people, oh, we never see you when you're coming home. I never got that. She was right, stayed in regular touch, but she was absolutely able to let us fly and be who we needed to be. And at the same time, we had a reconstituted family. She married again, Matthew DeVolk, my dad. And then, so there's a sort of almost a 10-year gap between me and my 2 younger sisters. And, when I look at what she did to keep that family intact as sisters, as 5 sisters, we look at ourselves, we're very different people. We're closer than a lot of families who completely share the same DNA. But I think it was because, sorry to use this word again, she needed to be deliberate about it. She wanted to, so she spent a lot of time on relationships, how families connect, how you manage tensions, conflict. And so she was a really good, there were good lessons in there as well in terms of understanding the importance of relationships.
Yes, my third one is my wonderful mother.
All right.
I know that people, many people pick their mum, and it's difficult for me not to, because she is just such a friend as well as a mum now. She wasn't a mum she wasn't a friend back in the day. She really was a mum. But we have over the years very much just become like friends. We laugh together, we enjoy time together. I love to become friends. But the reason why I picked her is because I find myself to be very ambitious. Myself, my business partners, most of the people I found myself with are naturally very ambitious. But I realize that ambition looks different to different people. It doesn't mean you have to climb Mount Everest and do all of these earth-shaking things. It's working out what's your enough, what's more than enough for you, and are you taking a step towards that? That's what I learned from my mom. And my mom's enough was that she wanted to be a registered nurse. She wanted to be married with a 4-bedroom house and 4 children. She wanted to become a counsellor by 50 and retired by 60. And she has done each of those things. That was her enough. And it's not the tenacious, I'm going after this, I'm doing that. She worked out measurably, these are the things that are going to contribute towards my happiness. I will work towards those things with all the twists and turns and of the path. She got pregnant by 18. She had 4 children by 30. She's a force to be reckoned with. But like the story of the wind versus the rain, making the man keep on his coat, and the sunshine comes out. Anyway, that story resonates because she's warm, she's soft, she's feminine, but she's very, very driven, but not in that way that we would outwardly describe as tenacious. So sometimes I wonder, where did my sisters and I get this from? Maybe more so my dad, but she still achieved all of her goals, and that is why I absolutely love her and I admire her so much. Even the goals that she had to anybody else might be quite simple, straightforward, very attainable. But if you've reached your enough, you've achieved 100% of your goal. And now she's just enjoying life, being a grandmother, and speaking to me every day.
Gosh, I'm so impressed by her. What's her name?
Her name is Beverly.
Beverly.
Wow.
I'm so impressed by that, because to me, having that foresight, that and knowing, I mean, she must have got that from somewhere. So there must have been something in her background that said, either as a rejection of an idea or a reinforcement of an idea, somebody had influenced her. It'd be wonderful to ask her, wouldn't it? Where did she get that from? Unless you
write that down.
Because I'd like to know, because to know, have so much conviction and so much foresight, and then to be so intentional, and also to know what is enough is a hugely mature thing. Like, that's a person that's really understood the essence of what it is to be peaceful in this life, and to enjoy the gifts of this world. I'm so impressed by that, and I love the how you kind of included it as an ambition thing. It is an ambition. It's not, like you say, it's not about conquering something unconquerable. It's about creating something totally within her means to make, but not easy. It's not easy to. So I take it there's a brother in the mix then, or is there another sister? Are you one of 4?
I'm actually one of 5, so I'm the middle child. 3 girls, 2 boys.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, that's extraordinary. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, I was just saying that 5 children, 4 from my and dad, and yes, it. I don't think it was I'm trying to work out if it was this conscious path, but yes, it was. It is this ambition that she had, this dedication to what she wanted to achieve, and how she would do that. And with 4 children, I just thought, by 30. At the time, I think it was a lot because she still worked full time. She was the nurse. She was working full time. Still made sure we had absolutely everything. We wanted for nothing. I'm not saying in terms of money, we didn't have all the money. We were still, telling our friends that we went to our gate on holiday, which was like our gate, not an actual place. We didn't leave the house, but we used the word our gate to describe somewhere that we'd been because we hadn't been on holiday. We'd just gone to the park. We'd done lovely things. So in growing up in our childhood, it wasn't, the most privileged, but we wanted for nothing in terms of happiness, support, all of the kind of Maslow's hierarchy of things.
Yeah.
They were there.
Okay, I want to talk about your mum. Was she very sort of? Did she have a career of her own? Was she a stay? And I could just picture this kind of home life where everyone's coming and going, and everyone knew where the snack drawer was, and they just, whether you, like you say, whether you were there or not, they'd come in and have a little chat.
Right.
So was she a stay-home mum? Was she very traditional in that way, or?
She was staying home until I was maybe 11, and then she was bored and she went to work as a realtor, which is, a sort of flexible schedule. But she was, there was always fresh baked something in the house.
Lovely.
Always ready to have a cup of tea with whoever walked through the door. And even in her 90s, she'd drive and pick up hitchhikers. I'm like, Mom, that's dangerous. So she's like, I'm not worried about it. And, she picked up a guy one day and she wanted to go to the soup kitchen at our church, actually. It's like, God, it's really good. Come on. She worked at the soup kitchen, So she was just kind to strangers, kind of people she loved and knew, kind to everybody. And fun. She said, I always have my suitcase packed. She was just lots of fun.
So she always had her suitcase packed. What, for spontaneity?
Yeah, if someone wanted to go someplace, she was in.
Oh my goodness, I love that.
The first time we took her to Rio, we were having a drink at the Intercontinental Hotel, which looks out on Two Brothers, which is a mountain that people hang glide off of.
Mm-hmm.
She said, people hang glide. I'm going to do that. I'm like, Mom, she was like 90. You're going to break something. She said, no, I can do it. And I said, you can't do it unless I come with you. And I'm afraid, so we're not doing it. But she would have done it. She was adventurous. She was fun. She was amazing.
Well, you said what age did she get to then? 90-something?
94.
94. Oh, bless her. That's a good age. And probably right to the end was saying, you sure I can't do this hang gliding thing? Are you sure?
She was.
Oh, amazing. Well,
she was.
And did she remarry after she lost her your dad?
She did. Interestingly, she married a guy that she almost married in college. But she was from an ordinary family. He was from a very wealthy family, and his parents didn't approve of marrying my mom.
Mm-hmm.
They met many, many years later. My dad was gone. They met in a jewelry store next to a real estate office. And Bill was divorced. Mom was single. And they just sort of picked up where they left off.
Amazing. Oh, I love that.
His son is my true brother. We're wonderful friends and great colleagues, and they love each other. She's lovely.
And this was in Connecticut. Was this where you grew up?
That was in. I lived in Connecticut for many years. But my dad, when he was 50, he went into he was the second in charge of the second largest agency in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Something happened. I don't know what it was. He walked into his boss's office after lunch, tore up his contract, and said, I quit.
Okay. There's a theme here. There's a theme here, Susie.
Exactly. And my mom said, don't worry, George, we're fine. And most of my parents had grown up in Rhode Island.
Mm-hmm.
So back to Rhode Island, he started his own small market management consulting firm. So that's where she ran into Bill, my stepdad.
Rhode Island, is that near Martha's Vineyard and all that side of things? Have I got that wrong?
It's people can leave from Rhode Island to get a ferry to Martha's Vineyard.
There you go.
It's right on the coast, yeah.
Do you know what? This podcast has made my American geography so much better. I'm meeting so many people from all over the US, and I'm getting better at it. I even know where Connecticut is. There you go. Oh well, listen. I mothers often are number one. Just saying. Quite rightly, we make everybody, don't we? Us girls. I know you haven't had children of your own, but you were born from one. Sorry, from a mother, that is, from a woman.
Yes. Yes.
So mothers typically get the number one spot on this podcast, and it makes me feel all nice and warm. So good. Anything more you want to say? I didn't get her name, actually. What was her name?
Hope.
Her name was Hope.
Hope.
Oh, what a beautiful.
Davidson was my maiden name. Johnson. That was my stepdad. It's just, and she lived into her name. You know, she was very hopeful. She never was discouraged. She always.